Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister, and you're listening to The Melissa Made Show. Now, for decades, I've dedicated myself to helping women break the cycle of dieting, navigate through all the fads, and change their lives through my nutrition coaching. Now, each week, I'm going to talk about everything from deep nutrition, mindset, self-care, the ideal workout routine, tips on how and why to implement intermittent fasting in your life, my favorite recipes that are not only crowd pleasers, but they're actually healthy for you, and so much more. Now, with small and consistent changes, you can defy aging while living a happier, healthier, and more heart-filled life. I'm so excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are so simple to adopt. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Melissa Made Show. So probably a couple of weeks ago, I did put a story up talking about my most downloaded person that I've had on my podcast. So by the time that you watch this, we could be at 500,000 downloads, which is pretty impressive for small little old me. But I've had some really fantastic people on this podcast. And every month I get a breakdown of who was the most popular podcast for the month, and then who was the most popular of all time. And if you guessed correctly on my story, or, my guest and I, it's cracking me up. If you're not watching the video, you gotta love this person. Anyway, she is one of my dearest, closest friends. And the story of how we met is one of a chuckle that her and I both like to reminisce about, but I don't want to go into too much detail about who the guest is. You just got to go listen to the first episode that we did a little while ago. But of course, I'm talking about Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald. Now, she is an anesthesiologist turned functional medicine doctor. And we have had this passion, number one, for dancing. I dance a little bit better than her, and she's a little bitter about that. But outside of that, we're very similar. Just kidding. We're like sisters from another mister, and we see, gosh, I would say 95 of everything that we believe is the same. And we, a while back, I asked her if she would help me write an ebook on a GLP-1 agonist, or semaglutide, and all of the names that go with it now. And she, of course, said absolutely, because her and I both firmly believe that education is key to any decision that you make. And so we wrote this book, and at the time in the book, I was more the joke, the devil and the angel on the shoulder, really, hoping people that understand the negatives that could come with this drug. And she was still in the very early stages of using it with her patients, but was still very, very hopeful, and had done the research on herself before ever, having chose a couple of her clients to use it on. And now she's just using it like wildfire, and we'll go into that. And since then, I've done my own research, as I always do, and I am learning that this drug is, and we will get into this as well, is mind-blowing with all the things that it can do outside of helping type 2 diabetics and helping obese patients. There's a lot more to it, and we're going to get into that. And you're going to hear from a functional medicine doctor that uses it in clinical practice every single day. So I've talked enough about her, and she's just probably going, okay, this is the Melissa Show. But Dr. Lauren, welcome back to the show. It's
Thank
you.
Thank you for having me again. Although I kind of invited myself, so let's just be real.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because like I said, you are, every month I get the breakdown, and I always message Lauren, and I'm like, you're not still number one. It's just, it says a lot about, and she's humble. She just said, it's just because we have, a good energy together. No, it's because you're, number one, you're gorgeous. I always tell her this. And number two, you're so smart, and you're so compassionate about other women, and you teach in such a good way. That's why you're number one on my podcast.
Thank you.
So
You're making me blush. I appreciate you greatly.
You're welcome. I want to start off, if you don't mind, just, patient privilege, but can you just share, since we've talked last, you've had, I can't imagine how many countless patients come to you and help you on your little protocol that you do for helping people lose weight with this drug. Can you just share some of the testimonials that you have seen and the changes that you've seen, just to give people an idea of the possibility, I guess?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this is the whole reason why I texted you and let you know, like, we need to record another podcast because there's so much misinformation out there from people with large platforms in the health and wellness space that are sharing, to my surprise, just bad information. And these people literally, it's very obvious that they've never used it in their patients and they don't understand how powerful it can be to literally change someone's life and make it go down a completely different direction. I mean, I have thousands of patients now that I have used this as a tool, and I literally, there are not enough words to say how much this is changing people's lives when done in the proper way.
Yeah, I understand it. And so, before you share some of the more specifics of the life change outside of weight loss, I mean, that's obvious. Will you explain really quick exactly what, there's so many names to call it.
No.
Just explain it quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you do all the time on your social media, which is fantastic. But for anybody that just, always listens to my podcast, number one, I love you. Number two, just in case they just didn't watch the first one or they're kind of off social media and they don't really know what this is.
Yeah, totally. And for people that will be searching just this topic and will come across this episode who have no idea who you and I are, So let me first be specific in the fact that when you talk about any kind of drug, you have brand name and generic name, right? So two examples of that are brand name Advil, generic name ibuprofen, brand name Tylenol, generic name acetaminophen, right? So they're both the exact same chemical compound, but one is a brand name and one is the generic name of that, right? So in the world of incretins, so this is the class of peptides, or some people call them drugs, that drugs like semaglutide or semaglutide, tomato, I do not care how you pronounce it. I say semaglutide, you say semaglutide, same, but they're both the generic name for Ozempic and Wegovy. Ozempic, this class of drugs has been around for almost 20 years. It's so well studied. Ozempic was trademarked back, I think 19 years ago for type 2 diabetics. So type 2 diabetics have literally like 9 different classes of drugs that they can use on their disease process. It's a very lucrative business for these big companies, right? And so this is yet another drug that they have, that primary care doctors have to use in their type 2 diabetic patients, not type 1, totally different process. So they realized that the patients that were on Ozempic for their type 2 diabetes were losing weight, and they were losing it at a pretty impressive rate, like in comparison to people that were having gastric bypass. So of course, they saw money signs and they repatented it at higher dosing. So it's the same drug, semaglutide, but just at higher dosing. And now it's FDA approved for weight loss under the name Wegovy. Okay. So compounding pharmacies have been able to compound generic drugs like this for eons. And so this is a class of drugs that has been compounded by these compounding pharmacies for a while now. And semaglutide is the first generation. It has a GLP-1 agonist activity. That means that it basically mimics something that our body does naturally. So to compare, if someone has their thyroid gland taken out, that you can't live without having thyroid hormone. So they take a hormone that is an agonist to the thyroid hormone that your body would naturally produce, but you don't have a thyroid gland anymore. So now you have to take a thyroid agonist that has the exact same activity. So this class of drugs is doing something that the body already naturally does. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Okay. So I'm trying to keep the consumer mind open.
Yes.
And so when you were saying this, the thing that popped into my head was, so it was used for type 2 diabetics at a lower dosage.
Yes.
And now here more recently being used at I assume a much higher dosage. Are there complications with that, or do they know that there's complications with that because it's being now given at a much higher dose? That, I mean, it's like taking 2 Tylenols versus 8 Tylenols, you know, have they seen any side effects or anything to it being given at such a higher dosage?
Absolutely. So in my opinion, I saw doctors doing this incorrectly. And when I decided to start using this in patients, I decided to do it in my own. It was almost like this is my innate way of approaching. I didn't read a manual and say, this is the better way to do it. This was just like okay, if I'm going to use this as a tool to help my patients on their weight loss journey, I'm going to start with the lowest dose possible and titrate up. Right. And so yes, one of the many ways that this drug is being used incorrectly is that doctors are just blindly starting you on a regimen, start at this dose, and then without even talking to the patient, increase to this dose next month, and then increase this dose to the third month. And there's no check-in with the patient. There's no guidance as far as what they should be doing to avoid what happens when you go to higher dosing. There's all of the side effects that we all know, the nausea, the vomiting, then the more detrimental ones like muscle wasting, because the appetite suppression is so severe. So yeah, the higher dosing can get you into a whole lot of problems for multiple ways. And that's why I have one out of I've got tons of patients. I should have looked at my database before to give you exact number, but it's a lot. I have a patient on the max dose, which is literally most of my patients are on 1/5 of the max dose because they're doing it the right way. And they're doing it with all of the other tools that I'm giving them. So the dosing really does matter. And whether it's a primary care doctor that's just writing the prescription and blindly giving it to their patient because they asked for it, or these med spas. And of course, I own a med spa, so I'm not throwing shade to med spas doing it. But if you don't have a provider that is in it for the right reasons, meaning that they really want to benefit the patient with all of the tools instead of just making money off of them, then this is the problem. They're just blindly prescribing this and then letting patients be on their way. And so they're getting into a whole lot of problems.
Yeah. Which that's a really, if you take nothing else from this, it is, you know, if you are considering this, or even if you are on it and you were just, you know, written a script and said, here you go. It's really important that you find somebody to navigate this whole journey with you and try not to do it on your own, or even try to go to Google or go to social media and try to go off what somebody else does. You need to have somebody who understands this drug and will work with you as an individual. Speaking of individual, Lauren, before we move on, I would really love for you, if you could just kind of throw a couple of success stories that you've had. Obviously, you know, weight loss, but have you seen anything else above and beyond them being able to lose the weight that they maybe had a hard time losing before?
Oh, totally. So the weight loss is the obvious one. And there's so many people that literally have tried everything. These are not people that are lazy, sitting on the couch, eating bonbons, not exercising. These are people that are my functional medicine patients who I've been working with them, and we hit plateaus and we could not get past that plateau until we added semaglutide on. Right. But I said, and so for your audience that doesn't follow me online, I personally use this. So let me tell that story real fast, because that will lead to answering that question. So you and I went to Bali, Indonesia, the end of August in 2022, right? And looking at those pictures on the flight back, because you know that flight I was by myself and you were going back to Dallas and I was coming back to Chicago. I was looking at the pictures and I really was unhappy with physically how I looked, because I was about 15 to 20 pounds heavier. Now, mind you, most people would have looked at me and been like, Lauren, you're fine. Because compared to the average American at my stage of life, 40, I was 42 at the time, I was not what anyone would consider fat, but I was not happy with what I saw. So when I got back from Bali was literally when I had decided to start using this as a tool in a lot of my own patients in my functional medicine practice, because I'd used it successfully with 5 patients throughout the summer, and I 100% positive outcomes with all 5 of them. And so that was when I decided, okay, I'm going to use this tool on more people and I'm going to try it myself. Right. So when I used this, I said specifically, this will be used outside of just the weight loss world, because this will be used for people that have addictions to like alcohol, cigarettes, food, gambling, because I felt like it pressed a reset button in my brain for all things that could induce craving or addictive like thoughts that ultimately lead to behaviors. So one of my patients, she's new on her weight loss journey. She signed up for my 12-week weight loss program, and she has a nicotine gum addiction. Now, it's kind of weird. She's never smoked before, so she didn't start the nicotine gum to get off of cigarettes. She started the nicotine gum because she read the benefits of the concentration with nicotine and literally created a habit. She was literally chewing nicotine gum all day, like throughout the day. She, at our very first follow-up, on the lowest dose that I start all my patients off of, she goes, I've been able to quit my nicotine gum habit. And she goes, and this woman, I can tell she is super strict. And she's like, I've never not been able to do something, except for I've tried to quit this so many times that I haven't been able to. So her brain had a chemical addiction to the nicotine gum. And she was able to, so she was like, even if I don't lose any weight, this was 100% worth it just to break that habit. I know. I have a lot of patients that started on it for the weight loss benefits that have been struggling with IBS their entire lives, that literally they're finally having brown log poops every single day for the first time ever.
Wow. That's huge.
I don't think you understand, like, this is truly changing people's lives. Like, and that's why when I hear respected influencers that I actually follow, because more times than not, I'm on the same page. When I hear them put out these fear-mongering posts, and I know that they don't prescribe this and haven't worked with it, it just infuriates me, because I've seen it help so many patients, and I know it's going to continue to help so many patients.
Right.
So
that is one of the things too, in the studies that I'm looking into it, is the benefits of the even OCD. And, if you do have some addictions, I've also read, and I don't know if you can shed light on this. I know it's probably new research, but obviously it's been shown now to, which just blows my mind, been shown to also help with cardiovascular disease and for people with non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome. So it's helping organs outside of being a type 2 diabetic, outside of obesity, needing to lose weight, and now outside of, these addictive behaviors. But there's also studies showing that it helps with cardiovascular disease and helps support the liver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's pretty crazy. Someone that, and I think you might have already listened to it. I think I asked you about it, but this is a naturopathic doctor out of Oregon who I started following back in 2020, because she and I were completely aligned with all of the stuff that was going on in the world, seemed very much it on the same page with everything. And so I followed her. Her name's Dr. Tina. And when I saw her post on Instagram about, she was like Ozempic, looking into the research. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. Another person that I respect that's going to do fear mongering, because let's be real. It's great clickbait. It gets people's attention. It gets a lot of people engaged and liking and sharing. And if your paycheck relies on social media, then I get it. But still, as an influencer who has hundreds of thousands of followers, it's your duty to make sure that when you share information that could influence people to make the wrong decision, you got to take responsibility for that. So she dives deep into the research. That's why I love her, because she's a naturopathic doctor who thinks like both a Western and natural doctor, right? And in Oregon, where she used to practice, they have rights to prescribe drugs. So she's actually worked with helping deprescribe patients off of hypertensive medicines and diabetic medicines. And, she listed her 2 podcast episodes. She went into all of that research showing like, there's a trial right now. It's a 3-year trial, so we won't know the results of it for another 3 years, but it's looking at the potential likelihood of this class of drugs being used to prevent Alzheimer's. And for me, That's
Yeah.
huge. When I saw that, I called my mom and I was like, I might just want to start you on low dose of this just for preventative sake, because her mom passed away of Alzheimer's and her mom's mom passed away from Alzheimer's. So we have that gene very strong in our history, in our family history. And it scares me for sure, especially since I don't have children of my own to potentially take care of me when I'm old. I got to make sure that I take care of myself now. So
Lauren, total side note, the nutritionist brain in me, does type 2 diabetes run in your family as well with
yes,
the
ma'am.
Alzheimer's?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And a lot of people in the functional medicine world consider Alzheimer's kind of a type 3 diabetes. So it's definitely on that metabolic syndrome curve, if you will.
I have also read, obviously, newer studies as well, but it is also helpful in the prevention of colorectal cancer and liver cancer. So these are huge, and it's definitely worth exploring more. At first, it was all of the gastroparesis and all that stuff. You hear of all the bad things, and what I really want to get into with you now is, you can say what you need to say about what I just said, but it seems like when something comes out that's too good to be true, obviously the first thing that people who want to have influence or truly do care will look for, but hold on, there are things about this that may not be good, and so they look for all the things that could possibly go wrong, the thyroid cancer and stuff like that. But then more and more research goes through because of the demand for it, so they start doing more and more research and looking into it, and then going, wait a minute, there are some benefits. And for me, working with a lot of people too that need to lose weight, even just as and I say small, it's such a huge deal, but small as self-worth and confidence, and going out in public again, and having pride in yourself, and all of the side effects of even poor sleep that come with being obese and having a lot of weight to lose. This on that spectrum alone is huge. So before I go on, any things to say about the cancer or anything like that?
So it blows my mind that there is a black box warning for thyroid cancer, despite the fact that there have been 0 humans that have been on this drug that have developed this thyroid cancer. It's rats. Yet we have an injection that was pushed through to the public that we all know have a lot of terrible side effects, but we can't even talk about it, or our social media platforms will get blocked, will get cancel cultured. It floors me. And if people don't understand that there are huge influences that are out there that really ultimately don't want us to be healthy, because if every single, let's just say, American got healthy, do you understand how many big industries would no longer exist? So us just trust, oh, well, this big trusted company, or this big trusted, whatever you call the FDA, puts a black box warning. Are you serious? Zero issues of thyroid cancer. 0. It's so dumb. It really, and medullary thyroid cancer, that is the kind, there's different kinds of thyroid cancer. That was the kind of thyroid cancer that was found. And it was still a very small percent of the rats, but medullary thyroid cancer in humans is the most rare kind of thyroid cancer too. So not only has it never been seen in humans, but it's in a really super rare kind of thyroid cancer seen in humans. And the gastroparesis, don't even get me started on that. Literally, oh, goodness.
Deep breath, Lauren, deep breath. I will rile you up just a little bit more because it's really fun to do. From what I've heard, and I might have gotten this from Dr. Tina, is the compound pharmacies now having trouble because, when something is so effective, we see the dollar signs. And so now, the pharmaceutical companies are wanting, which I'm sure they've always been that way, but really now really dig their claws into this class of drug because they want to have control over it.
Oh, completely. I think that these big pharma companies are really good about looking at the big picture, and they're starting to realize that this class of peptides is truly a threat on their existence. Because I had one person send me an article about even Walmart has noticed a decrease in the purchase of their junk food, their highly processed food, because that's the thing. When you are using this peptide, literally you're going to feel like crap if you eat crap food. And I don't even like calling it food. It's fake food. It's Franken food, right? So when you are ingesting stuff that is not good for you and you're using a peptide like semaglutide or tirzepatide, you're going to feel terrible. So I always advise my patients, look, I can't tell you to not drink alcohol, but I'm going to warn you that I was a very rare drinker. I was not a huge drinker before I tried semaglutide. Being on semaglutide turned me into a non-drinker, because the one time that I did drink alcohol, I was like, ooh, this is not worth it. First of all, I didn't like the taste of it. I felt terrible after it. And then the next day it was awful. So it turned me into a non-drinker, and I've been off of it for months now, and I still have zero desire to drink. So, but highly processed food, fried foods, fast foods, just crap that our bodies were not meant to ingest. When you take that food in and you're using a peptide like semaglutide, you're going to feel terrible. So this is why I think a lot of people that are just being prescribed blindly by their primary care doctor and given no guidance, and they're talking about all of these bad side effects. Well, no wonder. You're still eating the same crappy food. You're eating less of it, but when you eat the little food that you do, you're feeling like crap because it was not meant to eat anyway. And now it just amplifies it. So yeah, I think that big companies are going to recognize that if this particular peptide is done correctly, it might wipe them completely out of business. So I 100% agree with her theory on that's probably why there's such an attack on this class, because guess what? If people lose weight and they heal their busted metabolism, then typically their hypertension goes away and they get off of those drugs, their cholesterol drugs, their diabetic drugs, their anxiety and depression drugs, their autoimmune drugs. Like, I mean,
yeah. Well, speaking of huge conspiracy theories, I had seen the big, I don't know if you saw this, where a few doctors and dietitians were paid by the big soda companies to push the narrative that these diet sodas weren't bad, and they were busted for it. And so I kind of wonder if maybe some of these, again, doctors or dietitians or influencers of such, because there were doctors, dietitians, and influencers that were paid for for them to say, it's not bad. Diet soda is not bad. I wonder if that's happening again. I mean, obviously,
it is. It is. There's so many people that will sell their soul because of greed. I mean, I 100% bet all the money in my bank account on the fact that is happening right now as we speak.
Okay, so one of the things when I was talking to Mick about this morning, and your ears must have been burning, talking about you are one of the reasons that I'm so madly in love with you, is you are so driven and such a hard worker, so focused. And this is, I'm again coming from the consumer, especially the healthy consumer, that just can't wrap their brain around, why can't you just eat better and exercise? And in all fairness, you've always been into health and fitness. You're a doctor, you know better how to eat, and you ate pretty well. Not perfectly, none of us do, but you ate pretty well. Why could it, because like you're looking pretty damn hot.
Thank you.
Even when you were getting you had the video, the story of you having this huge needle in your hip, and all I'm looking at are your abs, and I'm like, damn. Nobody was looking at the needle. You're like, be careful if you're wheezy. People are just gonna be looking at your abs, go, dang girl. So anyway, why couldn't you just buck up and lose those last 15 to 20 pounds? You knew what to do. Why did it take a drug for you to get where you, and I think that's the mindset that I'm thinking of a specific influencer. He's very outspoken. He's very direct. And I do love his tough love about him, but he is very against this drug. And I know it's because he's having this mentality of, if I can do this, if I can get at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym. And if I can say no to the donuts and the sodas, why can't you? Why do you have to take this drug, especially an expensive drug, to get to where you want to go? Do you have, as a doctor, as a fitness enthusiast, as somebody who's taken it, all of that, how do you wrap your brain around people that are in that space? And they're the ones, besides the medical profession, people that are, I think, really poo-pooing this idea.
Totally. And trust me, I get this. I have this conversation with my boyfriend on a regular basis. He's someone who has never been overweight, right? And so someone who has never struggled with even being 10 pounds overweight. I know that doesn't sound much nowadays, but like, I remember I was just talking about this with him just yesterday. I remember in school, there was one obese person in my whole school. And now that is the norm, right?
Yeah.
So being overweight, you don't get to obese by just going straight from being normal weight to obese, right? You start with carrying extra 5 pounds and then extra 10 pounds and extra 15 pounds. And before you know it, it's like 200 pounds overweight and you don't know what's happened, right? So anyone that's never really struggled with being overweight, first of all, doesn't understand this whole food noise thing. And I'll be honest, when I tried semaglutide, I didn't think it was going to work for me because I knew that I was doing all of the things that I was telling my patients to do. I was working out. I was eating healthy. I was prioritizing sleep. I was doing all of the things. But when I started taking semaglutide, it was like if you have like a 3-ton boulder that's just sitting at still, and it can't be moved. And then you come around and you bring the perfect tool around that basically starts the momentum and starts it rolling down the hill again. I see semaglutide as that tool because I had lost and gained the same about 10-ish, maybe 15 pounds I'm going to be real with myself. It was more than just 2 years. It was really for the last 4 years on and off, and different stresses in my life were my excuse, and they're real excuses. But at the end of the day, like once, because I'm 43 right now, once you hit that 40 mark, if you're carrying extra lipocytes, so lipocytes, basically fat cells, they secrete their own hormones and they make it harder and harder to lose weight. So once you've crossed the threshold of being overweight, the chemistry in your brain is different. I feel like semaglutide came around and pressed a reset button in my brain for all of the cravings and food noise and the signals of, hey, Lauren, you've eaten enough. That's good. You don't need to eat anymore. And, oh, hey, I'm not thinking about chocolate or sugar or whatever. So I get the whole just eat less and exercise more. But guess what, you guys, if you've made that argument, if it were just that easy, we wouldn't be facing the epidemic of this metabolic craziness that we see in the United States. I just got back from Georgia, and literally every time I travel to someplace in the United States, I'm just dumbfounded by the level of obesity. And it makes me sad because as much as this culture wants you to believe that beautiful at every size and whatever, healthy at every size is a lie. It's a lie that these big industries are making a lot of money off of. And they make you feel better by making you say, oh, your size is healthy at all sizes. No, you are not healthy at all sizes. And even me now, I got on because I now weigh myself every single day. I see it as a data point, just like my Oura ring score in the morning, just like my weekly blood pressure check every week, every quarter I do a DEXA scan. So these are all data points that help me stay on point. And so I got on the scale this morning and I'm in the low 130s. I'm 5. Someone called me out for, I'm 5'6", but I'm really actually 5'5.5", because she was like, I don't think you're 5'6", because I'm 5'6.5". Thank you, Diane.
I'm 5'6.5". I did the same thing. I'm tall.
Yeah. but truly, like, I feel so much better in my skin. I'm so much healthier than I was when I started semaglutide at, I think the scale said like 155 point whatever, so I've lost and maintained this weight by doing all of the things. But semaglutide came around, it was that tool to get that 3-ton boulder start moving again.
Yeah.
And keep moving.
Yeah. Weight gain. It can be so hard to avoid, especially when we're binge watching our favorite shows and getting invited to party after party. And it's frustrating when we're working really hard and everything seems to be going right, but yet that scale keeps creeping up and up. But I recently learned a really interesting fact about how weight gain works and the super simple ways that we can control it. So I was chatting with Tina Anderson. Now, she's the founder of Just Thrive Probiotics, and you definitely want to check out the podcast that we did together. It's really good. She told me that when it comes to fat burning, you and I are basically at the mercy of two specific hunger hormones. Now, stay with me. I promise this won't get too sciencey. Now, these hormones, which are controlled by your gut, are responsible for switching off your fat storing and switching on your fat burning. Interesting, right? So when your gut can properly parent these hormones, your body literally absorbs less fat from the food you eat and burns the excess fat that you have. Yes, please and thank you. But thanks to our modern toxic world, it's way too easy for these hormones to misbehave and to kind of run amok. So when this happens, we end up choosing foods that we know are bad for us. We're eating more foods, even when we're not hungry. And we're making bad food choices because we think that it just might possibly boost our down mood. Now, that's why it is so important to support the health of your gut so that you get these hormones under control. Now, thanks to Tina, my go-to gut support is Just Thrive Probiotic. If you've been following me, you know I'm obsessed with gut health. Up to 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. So a healthy gut is truly the master key to staying resilient and feeling your best. And with Just Thrive Probiotic, I feel confident that I'm giving my body what it needs to stay strong and balance my hunger hormones so I can avoid unwanted pounds. I trust Just Thrive because their probiotic has more clinical research than anything else out there. You hear that? I love that it's vegan, it's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, and free from anything artificial. And it's even safe for kids. You can literally break open the capsule and sprinkle it onto any food or drink because Just Thrive strains are so resilient. They are all natural and do not even come alive until they get into your intestines. Now, seriously, I can mix it into smoothies or bake it into any recipe without losing the potency. Now, as a bonus, Just Thrive Probiotic can even support beautiful skin, better sleep, and a brighter mood. Just Thrive is my secret weapon for weight management. And right now, you can save 15% off their award-winning probiotic when you go to justthrivehealth.com and use the promo code MelissaMade at checkout.
I get that, because can you admit that, because I'm still wrapping my brain around it, that it took the food noise that I hear about, took the food noise away. And so it kept you, did it make it so that you ate the right amount of calories? I mean, because I hate to say this, because I hate to say this, but the calories do matter. There is, you have a deficit.
I hate that they matter though.
But that's all people think about. And then they eat the crap food, which makes them more unhealthy than if they eat healthy and we're a little bit overweight. But so, this makes it so you do put yourself in that deficit, that because the food noise is so, for so many reasons. I could sit here and list all of the reasons that my clients have struggled with adhering to a healthier lifestyle. I mean, it goes from emotional and trauma to, candida in the gut. I mean, there's just so many reasons why there's so much food noise. And so this bottom line takes that away so that you can really focus on eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, and not having a taste for the things that were probably addictive beforehand.
Totally. So the way I like to explain it is that it reset my brain to see food how I believe God designed the human body to have a relationship with food. The one thing I regret that I didn't do was I wish that I would have actually counted my calories at least for a few weeks before I started semaglutide, and then counted it after, just so that I could have told people, because I know that that was the main mechanism how I lost weight, but I just can't give you I decreased my caloric overall intake by 20 or 30%. And that's what led to my weight loss. And I mean, you and I have known each other since 2015. There were plenty of live videos that I would do back in the day, back, 2017-ish, where I was convinced that it was just your hormones, that calories did not matter. And I'm here to say I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. Calories do matter. They're not the only part of the equation, but I think that we jump too quick to excuses like, and I'm just using excuses that I used: stress, age. I mean, you and I have heard them all, right? And at the end of the day, excuses only hurt ourselves. Right. They're excuses. And as long as you have them, you are only hurting yourself. So when I was on semaglutide, it definitely decreased my caloric intake and made me realize that I actually don't need to eat as much as I thought I did, because in my mind, I was eating so much healthy food. I was eating, only real healthy food 95% of the time. But I was eating too much of it. and what percent, I don't know, but the caloric intake definitely decreased in me. I slowed down how I eat. I've always been a fast eater. And when I was on semaglutide, there were some times that I was literally sitting in front of the food for almost 30 minutes, because I knew that I had to at least get all of my protein in. And that's one thing that I definitely want to make sure that we cover today, because that's one thing that's not being done for most. And really, this can be applied to anyone on a weight loss journey, whether they're using peptides like semaglutide or not. If you are on a weight loss journey and you're cutting your calories, if you don't want to lose muscle, you have to make sure that you're eating protein and lifting weights, bottom line. So I knew that I didn't want to have all of the bad side effects of quick weight loss that you're seeing with people. You hear the Ozempic face and whatever, like that is because what's happening with these people, they have quick weight loss because they don't eat. Like literally, they're not giving any guidance. The appetite suppression is very real. So they're literally eating like 500 calories a day. So guess what? You are going to lose muscle, you're going to lose fat. And at the end of the day, let's say that you take a person that is 250 pounds and they are trying to get to their goal weight of 150 pounds. So they get to 150 pounds, but they've done it the wrong way. And you have a DEXA scan from day one and a DEXA scan from, the day that they hit 150 pounds. The likelihood of them needing to have lifetime use of semaglutide is pretty high if on that DEXA scan it shows they've lost most of their muscle mass. So 100-pound weight loss, if 70% of that comes from fat and 30% of it comes from muscle mass, your metabolism is going to be in the crapper, and you're probably going to need to be on this drug to maintain your weight loss. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's one thing. I can't require all of my patients to get a DEXA scan, but I highly recommend it. And I actually showed my own DEXA scan 3.5 months apart. I showed not only can you lose only fat and not lose muscle, but I actually gained 2.5 pounds of muscle while on that. So I went from like 20% body fat to 17% body fat, lost 5.5 pounds of fat and gained 2.5 pounds of muscle. So that's the goal ultimately, right? But everything that you're doing on semaglutide is literally getting you back to being programmed the way I believe someone like you, who you walk around and you don't understand like the way your brain sees food and feels full, feels hungry, and all of the things, like that's healthy hormone balance and neurotransmitters and all of the chemicals that happen in the brain that give signals. But the farther we get away from our ideal body, the harder it is, the louder that food noise is. And it's not just a simple, just eat less and exercise more. If it were that simple, we wouldn't have the problem that we have. So why are people against someone that has struggled on and off with their weight for most of their life to now finally get a hold of it by using a tool that we know is super safe and super effective, especially when done right? Like the judgment needs to be taken out of it. You wouldn't hear this if someone needed to be on thyroid medicine or to help their thyroid function or to get on blood pressure medicine. So why the judgment?
That's a really good point, because you can think to yourself, of course you could lower your, 9 times out of 10, lower your cholesterol by changing your diet, instead of being on the drug, or lower your blood pressure by changing your lifestyle. But sometimes these medications are needed, and sometimes they're needed here as well, which is what I'm learning. Which brings me to the very interesting question that I've wanted to ask you. Should or could someone like me be on it?
So-
Wait, let me preface this, Lauren. I just, because Mick is a walking accident, and he's again in a cast.
Once
And-
again.
And so, and he's gonna get this cast off, and his poor little calf is gonna, be atrophied, and he's just going to, he's losing a lot of muscle mass, because that's why we're here in Mexico. I will not let him move. I even watch him try to just gimp his way. I'm like, get off your foot, because we're gonna heal it this time. So he's on the Wolverine peptide. Jonathan has put him on CJC. And I started taking that again. I mean, this is my 3rd week, I think, of the human growth hormone stimulator. I think I saw a long time ago someone thought I was on steroids because they're so completely different. A peptide is a signaling molecule. It just tells your body what to do. And so to help him, rebuild his muscle. And I was like, hey, I haven't been on it for a really long time. So I just started it again. I was on it like 2 years ago, had fantastic results with it. It's another, there's so many peptides out there, so many good peptides. So 2 questions for you. Number one, and the second one is like curiosity, I guess, for me, there is, can or should someone like me or Mick be on it? Because it's just another peptide for the reasons that we listed outside of weight loss. Number 2, maybe because for Mick's OCD, I just thought of that. Number 2 is why, or do you ever consider opening up your practice to more peptides? Because you've seen how good this one has worked with your patients. Have you considered opening up the peptide plethora for those people that you work with?
100%. So first of all, I think that over time, we will find different reasons that will justify maybe a microdose for someone like you, depending on, like, just off the top of my head, because I kind of know more or less, your medical history a little bit more than just the average person does. There is not a reason that I could come up with right now that you personally would benefit from even a microdose. But someone like Mick, I do actually believe that he actually might benefit from a microdose, even just the lowering of inflammation. His body is in an inflammatory state right now, and I mean, I just had one of my my local weight loss patients message me on Instagram, and she was like, I've only been on this for 2 weeks, and I can't tell you how much better I feel. Even though weight hasn't dropped at all yet, I can feel like less inflamed. And so I do believe that there will be multiple off-label uses for this, for people that don't have to, or don't need to lose weight. Sorry, I'm at home and Lila likes to make her presence known. But I definitely think, and you even said, so I'll share with the audience, you messaged me saying, giving me a compliment, by the way, that your daughter said how good I looked and was wondering if I was still on it. And you were like, if you don't mind asking. And so I was like, no, I haven't been on it for months now, but I'm actually considering getting a microdose on board of tirzepatide, which is the generic name for Mounjaro, which has GLP-1 agonist activity and GIP-1 agonist. So it has 2 different mechanisms of action versus just semaglutide has just one. And I'm considering doing that for experimental purposes, going back on a very low dose of, not back on it for the first time, just to see if it would quiet the food noise. Because like I shared with you, some of the food noise has definitely come back since I've been off the semaglutide, but it's not to a place where it's like ruling my life, or it has led to me undoing the progress that I made when I was on it. So I'm maintaining all of the progress that I made while on semaglutide, but I'm considering doing a very low dose of tirzepatide just to see if that little bit of tirzepatide will help quiet the food noise. But I don't want to lose any more weight. I'm literally just in the process of trying to gain muscle, and I don't know why, but 14% body fat, that's my goal. Any less than that, I'm like, I'm good. So that my goal is 14% body fat and increased muscle mass, and try and freaking grow my glutes. That's another thing. So to answer your second question, Yes, I'm actually in 2024, I'm going to be all things peptides. So I do believe now that I've seen the power of them, I have a whole new belief system in these peptides and what they can do. So yes, to answer your question, I 100% am going to open up to using more of them in my practice.
Hey, I'm glad to hear. Like I said, I think I think it's BPC. The Wolverine peptide has been a life changer. And I also hear it's really good for gut health. I mean, it's just, we could sit here and talk. I've had a few people on the show talking about peptide. There's Joy Fitness. She was on and she sent me as a gift these because we talked about libido, and she sent me these little lozenges that you put under your tongue. They're these little tiny orange things that are supposed to help with libido for like 72 hours. And so she sent them as a gift, and I've tried them a couple of times, and
Hey.
it might, I mean, you know about Mick and I's personal history. I mean, that man on 1,000 where I'm on 2. We can meet in the middle. Life would be great. So it's fun. I've only used it like 3 times now, and he doesn't even know, because I don't want him to think that the sensation of being ready is not, because I'm madly in love with the man, but the libido is just not there. So there's so many, I mean, from one end of the spectrum, from weight loss all the way to higher sex drive. It's just to wound healing, to gut health. It's pretty impressive what it can do.
Absolutely. But I want to circle back to one comment you said, because you said that someone even asked if you were on steroids. I want to just like address that a little, like, testosterone is a steroid, and a little bit of testosterone is not a bad thing. It's actually beneficial for a lot of women, perimenopausal and beyond. So I just think that so many people are so quick to judge something they don't know and understand at all,
Or a little bit jealous of, let's be honest. Maybe some people want to be on this drug, and because they hear, because I mean, you can't turn on, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you can't turn on TikTok without having somebody doing a live about being on Ozempic or something, and they're glowing, they're so happy, and they're just wanting to be on this live to share how good they feel. And you get the bad people and you get the good people, but I mean, it's just, maybe those people can't either afford it, or their insurance won't pay for it, or they do have that mental block of, I don't need a shortcut, and neither should you, and so they're nasty.
They're so nasty.
It's so nasty.
It's insane. And I mean, for people that don't follow me, that are listening to this, I mean, I have literally the moment that I get any negativity or nasty from someone, I block them. I'm not here to be everyone's best friend. If you don't like what I have to say in my social media platform, you are more than welcome to leave. And when you disrespect it, I block you and don't allow you to ever enjoy all of the free content that comes along with it.
Right.
So, but yeah, people are being nasty around this, and it's uncalled for. It's uneducated, in my opinion. Definitely biased based on dumb. Like, I mean, don't even get me started on some of the influencers that are just very well known for clickbait, just to get, and I'm not going to name names, but you and I both know. And then another thing, can we just get real on the fact, like, a lot of fitness influencers are not fully disclosing all of the stuff that they do to maintain their physique. Can we talk about just all of the women in the fitness competition world that have taken fen and now just phentermine forever to suppress their weight, their appetite? How is that any freaking different? Literally. But it's an amphetamine that leads to all sorts of bad things. And again, I'm not going to prescribe anything that I don't feel comfortable trying myself. So all of the other weight loss drugs, I have not prescribed them for other people, because I don't feel comfortable. The risk versus benefits are not worth it for me. So why would I prescribe it for my patients? I'm not going to do it just to make a quick buck. I'm sorry. But man, these people are they're not fully open about all of the stuff they're doing to have their body look that way. I mean, one of my friends, his girlfriend was, I guess, going for her her pro card. Yeah, that's it. And he was telling me literally how little she was eating, the caloric intake, and how hard she was lifting. Like she was spending like 2+ hours of the day and was eating like 500 calories. How is that healthy?
Yeah, that's the number one reason why you mean, not that it perceives health, but a lot of the times it doesn't. And you and I both are really good friends with Sean, and I've watched him through this journey. I think he love that man. I think he did a pretty good job of trying to stay as healthy as he could. But even in some of his stories and stuff like that, he shared how hard it was on him mentally. And, and I know watching Brianne Freeman go through it as well, she's open about how hungry she gets and how she used to never have cravings or anything like that. And the whole different podcast, but it's really not the healthiest way to be. I mean, it is, as people say, and I love the way when they say this, it's a sport. And it's a sport that takes a lot of sacrifice. And that's why they have on and off seasons, because you cannot maintain what you're doing and be a healthy individual long term. You have to stop and regain your health in order to
Which
not
is
have
crazy.
Yeah. It's not for me.
It just blows my mind. Yeah. Don't even get me started on that.
Okay. So, we spent almost an hour talking about it in and of itself. And, maybe people who are listening to this, their minds have been changed. Maybe people have been considering it for a long time, but haven't been able to step over the line to say, okay, I commit to this. Or there are people that are on it and maybe they were prescribed from their PCP and they have no idea what they're doing. Can you share really quick, give them a taste of kind of your protocol of what you do with your clients on if you are considering this, if you are brand new to this, or if you've been on it a while and you're not seeing your results? What does Dr. Lauren say to do with this to have pretty much the outcome that you had, that, you got the weight off, you've kept your muscle mass, you're thriving now that you're not on it? Can you share?
Yeah, absolutely. So for my patients that are in my weight loss program, they know that they're non-negotiables. So certain things I believe, and I actually learned this from my years of full-time Beachbody coaching, was the accountability is very real. So I have some patients that will literally come to me that are medical providers that could call it in for themselves and do it themselves, and literally will pay me. I don't take health insurance, so pay me my monthly fee so that I can prescribe it for them and guide them through it. I meet with them monthly. As long as you are being prescribed semaglutide under my tutelage, you'll meet with us at least once every 4 weeks, because there's not a perfect dose for everyone. Not everyone hits plateaus, but most people hit plateaus. I always make sure that they are doing their side of the bargain, because I give them the same spiel at the beginning of their weight loss journey using semaglutide. I let them know that my goal is to set them up so that they don't need to use this peptide forever. Okay. And mind you, it would be a great money-making business model for me to just set people up like that, because then I'd be set for life. If I didn't give them all of the tools, they would lose weight real fast and they'd lose their fat and their muscle and they'd need me forever. And this is unfortunately what's happening with a lot of these places that are doing it. It's completely wrong, but I let them know that my goal is for you to use this as a tool, one of many tools on your weight loss journey. But what I can promise you is that if you don't use this opportunity while you're on this peptide to go balls to the wall on all of the other lifestyle changes, then you're going to forever need this, because you will lose muscle mass. And by the time you get to your goal weight, you're going to try and get off of it and you're going to gain it back because you've done everything wrong. And you haven't spent the time on this peptide to learn how to eat properly, eat real food and not processed food, not fake food. You have to learn to cook for yourself. Bottom line, if you have the internet, you can learn to cook. Get over yourself and understand that eating out is not good for you. I eat out maybe once a week now. And literally I control everything that goes into my mouth now. If you do not understand that muscle is the key to longevity, and if you don't eat adequate protein and work those muscles, you will lose them. And your quality of life when you're old is not going to be pretty. Okay. So every time I check in with them, I'm always asking them about, are you eating your protein goal every day? This is the only macronutrient that I have my weight loss patients count. I let them know, if you want to track everything else, cool, but I'm literally just concerned about you eating your protein and making sure that it is good, humanely raised animal protein. It's very hard to get enough protein eating plant-based. I'll be honest. You have to eat a lot of calories to get adequate protein. And I don't see how you could do this the right way being a vegetarian or a vegan, to be honest. But I always ask them about protein. I ask them, how many days, can I cuss right now?
Of course.
How many days a week are you lifting heavy shit? And they know that you have to lift heavy shit, but I want them to do it in a very safe way, because there are plenty of people that don't feel comfortable lifting weights. And if they go to straight lifting heavy shit, they're going to hurt themselves. And then that's going to, throw a wrench in the thing. I make sure that they understand that hydration level is super important. One of two of the most common side effects is appetite suppression and thirst suppression. And so if you are not proactively drinking enough water, and not just water, but hydrating water. So I noticed that you switch from, you're using a different thing to add to your Mountain Valley water. I saw that. I was like, maybe, because I use trace minerals to put in my water. But
I can do it bottled.
Okay. but really what you're doing when you're adding those minerals to your water is making it hydrating water, adequately hydrating water. But using, like I used Beachbody's Hydrate when I was on semaglutide to make sure that I was getting adequate electrolytes in my water at least once a day. But proactive hydration and adequate nutrition. I make them eat 3 meals and I tell them they cannot skip. And for me, my intermittent fasting window got pushed up. So I still consider myself an intermittent faster, but my eating window is now 10 hours instead of 8 hours, because when I was on semaglutide, I needed 5 hours in between my 3 meals to properly digest my food. Because if I was eating a meal every 3 to 4 hours, I literally I was having to force down that protein and it was not fun. So for me, my intermittent fasting window was pushed up, but I knew that I had to get in my protein. And so I make my patients eat 3 times a day without nope, you cannot skip a meal. That is not an option. It's a non-negotiable. And then the lifting weights, if I have someone if you were to be my patient, I would automatically, say you have to lift heavy shit 5 times a week. But if someone's brand new to lifting weights, I start at 3 days a week because that's minimum. But you have to add resistance training. So I think that whether you have a person that is currently on semaglutide from their primary care doctor with no guidance, you have someone that's considering it, or someone that is doing it properly, those main core things are the most important. And really, at the end of the day, I can't make anyone do that, but I can definitely help be set the example and then be the accountability partner along the journey. And I've had to give some tough love along the way. Like when I ask patients, about the protein, they're like, well, kind of. And I'm like, that's not an option. That has to change. It's non-negotiable. So, the element of accountability from, a provider that really cares, that wants you to do it right, I do think is a key that makes my weight loss program different from most that are using this, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And serious accountability, because I can imagine that if you're not hungry, and you just want something little, I'm speaking from experience, I'm just imagining that, I'm like, when I'm not hungry, but I just want something, or I know I should eat something. I mean, we have little mini, love Mexico because they're tiny, literally the size of my index finger, little Snickers that are in our freezer. And I'll grab for that because, it's not a lot of calories, and so I know that probably that mindset of I'm only eating 1,200 calories a day. So it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to gain weight. And so having, a medical doctor, in my opinion, that is really truly cares about your health above anything else, is not going to be okay with or tell you it's fine, just get this many calories. You need to get this protein, because if you don't, there's going to be long-term consequences. And so when you say accountability, I don't think people really understand. It's so much more than just telling you to, take your shot. It's totally. You need that Lauren tough love that we've all experienced, telling you this is, yeah, it's non-negotiable. And I love that, because I think that's
that's obviously the absolute key to it. And for those of you out there listening, just, I think it was yesterday or the day before, coincidentally, Sal DiStefano had posted something because people will put their opinions out there. And he said, think about the source that it's coming from, kind of a thing. And I reposted it and I said, don't ever be afraid to ask for someone's credentials or for the source that they're giving you this information. Don't ingest it at all until you reach out to that person and say, can you share with me where you got this information? Or, do you have, the credentials to back that? And if they ignore you, then you got to take it with a grain of salt. If they're not willing to share with you or they ignore you, number one, shame on them, because if you ever put anything out there on social media, you should have the resources or the sources to back that up. So just keep that in mind, that if you're seeing these on anything, and I'm not just talking about what we're talking about today, but anything. I mean, it's still bothering me. Obviously, I'm bringing this up, but several weeks ago, someone that I follow had poo-pooed fasting, and all she said was, "Oh, girl, you don't need to fast. You'll lose muscle." And I just wanted to go, "Oh." This person had zero credentials. I mean, I don't even think they have a high school diploma. Not that matters, but the education is not there. But they're fit, and you just don't. She doesn't know that person. That person, could have insulin resistance. They could have, SIBO. There could be something where fasting would be beneficial, and you just can't make those blanket statements. So, off my soapbox.
Yeah, no, it was a couple weeks ago that, of course, now anytime that there is an influencer that is, talking shit about Ozempic, Wegovy, semaglutide, whatever, they tag me. And me, like, there used to be a day where I'm like, oh, let's go to it. I'm fit. Like, for me, it's not worth the energy, because I'm not going to convince someone. But this particular, so he's a local, like, he's got a huge following. He's a chiropractor. Look, my best friend, her husband's a chiropractor. I have much respect for chiropractors. But chiropractors cannot prescribe this class of drugs. So they have no experience in working with patients, doing it the proper way. Maybe they've seen patients' aftermath of it done the wrong way. I will give you that. But the fact is, I feel like with this class of drugs, unless you have had experience prescribing it with the patient, you need to leave it to, you're doing the responsible thing. As an influencer, you're interviewing a medical provider that actually has experience with it, that can speak from the positives and negatives. Have I had anyone with gastroparesis? No. Have I had anyone with thyroid cancer? No. Have I had anyone with pancreatitis? No. Have I had anyone with nausea, vomiting? Like 1% of my patients, because they do what I ask them to do, and they do it the right way. And they have a provider that is giving them the lowest dose possible that is working for their goals. And I stay on top of all the things, making sure that their own personal weight loss journey is right for them. Right. But on this particular dude's, I couldn't help myself, but I commented, and of course I got some people hating and whatnot. And it was just, it blows my mind. Yeah. Yeah. Can you tell I'm passionate about it?
No, I feel you. I've got mine as well. And I don't know, you just keep putting your truth out there, and hopefully that's enough.
Exactly.
Will you please share with the audience, not that they don't know, because if you follow me and don't follow her, then what's wrong with you? Where they can find you, and where they can get more information on, working with you. Curious, do you work with patients that aren't on semaglutide for weight loss?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For sure. That's what I always tell my patients that are not on semaglutide, that have weight to lose. I've been helping people lose weight without semaglutide for a long time, but I've been using semaglutide as a powerful tool in my tool belt for almost 2 years now, but really consistently for a year. I used it on my first 5 patients in spring of 2022, and used it on them for a good 6 months before I started using it on any of my other patients. But I've been helping patients lose weight in one form or fashion for a long time, but I only see people that are in the United States, and people that want to use semaglutide on their weight loss journey have to be in every single state except for California, Hawaii, and Minnesota is still on that list of it has to do. I know Minnesota, their compounding laws, or they let some license go, so they're waiting to renew it. But California and Hawaii compounding laws just don't allow for if I'm not in California physically, I can't prescribe it for them. So, but I have California and Hawaii patients. They don't have the option to use semaglutide as one of the tools. But my main platform is my Instagram, which is actually my smallest, as you know. My Instagram is Dr. Lauren Fitz. It's DrLaurenFitz. I do a lot of my teaching and my stories. I'm really terrible about posting regular reels and stuff now. I used to be really good at that. And yeah, I know. So I love to teach in my stories. So that's where most people will find me. I'm actually thinking about converting my large YouTube channel that's mostly dance fitness into I'm considering going back to the podcasting, or if not podcasting, some way that I can do short educational videos, because there's just not enough people that are, on the same page with me on this topic. And I'm really passionate about this topic because I do believe it can change the health of a large majority of Americans. So that right now is Club Fitz Fitness on YouTube. And then my Facebook page is Dr. Lauren Fitz. So I'm on all of them, but Instagram is definitely where I'm the most. Oh, and I'm trying to do more TikToks, but damn, I know.
There's TikTok is a very interesting platform. For sure. And Lauren and I were having a conversation, just business conversation a little while ago, and she shared with me, because a lot of my clients see her and vice versa. We share a lot of clients, and one of my clients said that she went to check out the cost of Lauren's plan, and I was dumbfounded. As her friend, I think she needs to be charging more. That goes to show how passionate she is about this, because I'm sure she could. So if you're thinking, it's, insurance doesn't pay for it, it's out of my realm, I would go check it out, because if this is where you need to be, this is what you need at this time in your life to reach your goals, I think you'd be very pleasantly surprised at how affordable Dr. Lauren is. And I don't know how you do it. I love you to pieces, and you just keep leveling up on how hard you work at helping other people. And whenever I do my one-on-one calls with my clients and stuff like that, if most of them have, if they work with you, it's always a 5-minute conversation between the two of us on how smart you are and compassionate. And I'm grateful to call you a friend. I'm grateful to call you a partner in so many things that we do together. And thank you for being on here again, because I think this was better than the first one. Mostly because I didn't know a whole lot about it. I was one of those people that the little chip on my shoulder, like, I've been fit my whole life. Come on, you can do it too. Stop this. But I'm seeing the health benefits of it. The fact that it doesn't have the crazy side effects that we originally were talking about, and you sharing with me, privately, not sharing names, but sharing privately, the amount of people that this is helping is just something that you can't share. And so thank you for being on here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I just think that people like you, and I know specifically you and I both, we have been humbled in the right way, because I do believe that the best teachers are the ones that are able to humble themselves and admit, okay, maybe I have been wrong in this, and I still have a lot to learn. We both still have a lot to learn, but the fact is that our hearts are in the right place. So we truly want people to understand how much power they have in themselves, because this life is incredible. We only get one. And the worst thing is to get to the end of your life and have regret and wish that you would have done something different earlier on. And we're not promised tomorrow. So I want to challenge your audience to stop making the excuses that are holding you back from living the most abundant, amazing, incredible life that I believe is at your fingertips, but you are holding yourself back. So stop making the excuses and just freaking take action.
So very well said. And thank you. I love you to pieces. And as you guys can imagine, there will be a third one at some point in time. Maybe when the other peptides start coming out, we can have Dr. Lauren educate us on those as well. So you guys, as always, thank you for being on here and making this podcast such a huge success, and making Dr. Lauren your #1 download. Let's see this one to outdo the first one. That's going to be the challenge. So we're going to have to, we still have the semaglutide ebook available. All of the information in it is still 100% relevant. Nothing has changed with the information in that ebook, except for maybe my harshness is not so harsh anymore. And we'll put it in the show notes for sure. You can go to my website for sure. I'm not sure, Lauren, if you have it anywhere.
Yeah. And if they are interested in getting more information on my weight loss program, just have them email my clinic. I have a nice little email written out on your options. It's info@larimarmed. So that's LARIMARMED.com. So it's super easy. And my staff is amazing. I get compliments on them all the time. I'm very grateful for everyone that allows me to do what I'm designed to do.
Yeah. And as we end this, I just have to give a shout out to her, med spa when I went, and I don't know that you're going to continue any of this, but I'll tell you guys, I had laser hair removal once and hardly anything grew back. I was like, what? So the machine is legit. She put some, what is that stuff that you put in the face?
Morpheus?
No, you did that too. That was great.
Sculptra.
And I really think it made a difference. It was just an exceptional, it was a wonderful day. I had so much fun there. But so if you are in the Chicago area, or you want to, travel, and set up a whole day at the spa and just stay the night there and make it a you day, you won't be disappointed. I've been to a lot of spas. I'm a Groupon junkie, and I'm not surprised. And just think, in everything that she does well, this is no exception. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close out this podcast. I love you, Lauren. And for you guys, I want you to remember to wake up feeling prepared and to go to bed feeling proud. Have a great day. Wow, we've reached the end. But before I leave you, I'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion. And to me, your opinion does matter. So please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. And remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Melissa McAllister. And until next time, thank you for being your own health advocate.